Afternoon, guys. I'm Dave Canterbury with the Pathfinder School, and I wanted to just show you a couple quick mods to this picnic table bench today that you can do at home very easily that will give you a couple features of a more expensive workbench that you can do with very common materials, and you can manufacture these items at home to use with this workbench. Stay with me. Okay, the first thing I want to show you is a simple way to make a bench dog. And a bench dog is basically a stop that's put in one of the holes that you've drilled in your bench to shove material up against, to hold it in place, or to stop it from moving while you're working on it. And a railroad spike makes a perfect bench dog. If you just cut that thing off till it's about 3 inches long, round it off on a bench grinder or with an angle grinder, and square up the front and back of it, you can drop that thing down in these holes, either front ways or backwards, either way. Drop it down inside there, and it gives you a solid stop. Railroad spikes are cheap. They're easy to get. You can find them at yard sales. You can find them at flea markets. I saw several of them this weekend at a blacksmithing event for, I think, 50 cents a piece. So instead of paying $12 or $14 for a set of stops, you can make a set of stops for about $1. When you're woodworking, you're going to have times that you're going to want to plane wood. You're going to need to lock that wood down so that you can use your plane effectively and hold the piece so it doesn't move. If you don't have side vices or tail vices on your bench, there's an easy way to make a makeshift vise that I'm going to show you right now with your picnic table. Okay, to make a simple planing type vise, which would almost be like a side screw vise that goes into the side of our bench if we wanted to plane a piece of lumber. We're going to take advantage of the bench and the angles on the bench to make our vise. We have a leg that comes down here with a cross brace, and we have a seat right here, which gives us a little pocket right here that we can trap things between. If I cut a piece of wood so that the angle of that piece of wood is about the same as my tabletop, I can then take another piece of wood like this one that I want to work, put it inside here, manipulate this to where I need it, to where it's going to hold tight against here, drop a wedge right here between the bench and that upright, and pound it in with a wood mallet. Once I pound that wedge in, I now have everything stable to be able to work on this piece of wood, and it's not going to move. That gives me a very simple side vise that I can use for locking material in here. If I wanted to, I could use a little bit wider board than this, but the important thing is that we've got a point of contact here, a point of contact here, and a point of contact against the wood. So we have 3 points of contact, creating that seesawing action that's locking that wood in. It's wedged here, it's wedged against here. So this cannot move because it's got it wedged against the bench. This is a very, very effective way to make a quick and down and dirty vise for the side of your bench if you want to do planing work that you can make completely out of scrap lumber. So again, just so you can see this from a little bit better angle, I cracked my wedge with my hammer, but not a big deal. These things are meant to be expendable anyway. This is just a scrap piece of 2x. Still got the banding groove cut in it. This was on the bottom of a skid of 2x4s at a lumber yard, so I didn't really pay anything for it. I've got it cut at the same angle as the tabletop. When it's laid in here at an angle, I get the bench here, and I'm stopped down at the bottom from moving because I've got a leg right there in that pocket. So I drop my piece of wood in like this, get it to the height or the level I want it, stick a wedge in here, and hammer it in, and now I'm locked in place, and it's not going to move until I'm done planing this piece of wood. Very, very simple, very effective, very cheap and easy to do. Now if I want a Robo style vise, I can just buy $25 vices off Amazon, like these two end vices here. Drop a piece of stock in there, These things open up 6 inches like this. Then I can drop my working piece inside just like this to do dovetails, whatever the case may be, just like I would be doing if I had a Robo style bench. And that works just fine, and it's a whole lot cheaper than trying to buy an actual Robo vise. Let's talk about these holdfasts real quick. I told you what these things cost in the first video that we did. I made this one in a gas forge and just bent it over a vise. The only thing I pounded on this whole thing was this little lip right here. I flattened it out and bent it in. You could do that on your vise if you needed to and heat this thing up with a torch, like an acetylene torch or something like that. Maybe even MAP gas would get this hot enough to bend. It's a pretty simple bend in that thing, and you just want to let that thing air cool so it's not tempered or hard. This is made out of 1/2 inch stock, and this came from a scrap yard at 60 cents a pound scrap weight. Really, really simple to make, really, really effective. You can make a pair of them things from a scrap yard in your backyard for probably less than $2. Okay guys, one more real quick thing I want to show you here. If I want to lock a piece of wood in here on the end, all I have to do is put my homemade bench dog in there and put my piece of wood right there. Unscrew my tail vise, drop a piece of wood inside there to keep that thing from moving. Come in on it like this, and as long as there's some space here that I've got a gap to close between when this gets tight and when it's loose, this bottom piece will not let this thing kick out. So it's going to lock that piece of wood in for you against that dog. Just a quick and easy way to set it up. You're going to pay probably another $50 just to get one of these tail vices that has something that comes up on the top of it right here to use as a stopping point, to use for something just like this, the same application. And you can just use any piece of wood for the same thing, but you have to put a spacer in there, because if you don't, when you tighten this thing down, what's going to happen is this thing's going to want to kick on you just like it just did. It's going to kick sideways. So if you put that spacer in there and put that in, then it can't go anywhere. So as long as this spacer is just a little bit less than this is, you're in good shape. Very, very simple. Couple scrap pieces of lumber laying around. I just picked these up over here off a shelf and threw them in here, and they work like a charm. Well guys, I appreciate you joining me today for this little quick video on some mods, tips and tricks for this picnic table style workbench that are very affordable and common man for you to make this thing more multifunctional for your wood crafting and woodworking projects. I appreciate your views. I appreciate your support. I thank you for everything you do for our school, for our family, and for our business, for all of our sponsors, instructors, affiliates, and friends. And I'll be back with another video as soon as I can. Thanks, guys.